Hi there, my name is Ian Middleton. I am a travel and landscape photographer, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Ian Middleton Photography, or on my website ianmiddletonphotography.com. This is one of my quick photography tips, and today I'm going to show you how to overcome problems with lens flare when photographing sunrises or sunsets, sunrise in this case, and in particular when you want to capture the sun bursting over a mountain peak like this. And what can often happen, especially when the sun is, or in this case for a sunrise, when the sun is up quite high already but it's still bursting over the mountaintop, but it's extremely bright. And the problem you get then is lens flare across the scene. Okay, so if we look at this shot, here we go. Down here is all the lens flare, and this is something that you can't really avoid, especially if you're using filters. So there are many tricks you can use. One of them actually is obscuring the sun in one shot and then taking the shot with the sun in. But what I tend to do in moments like this, especially in a sunrise or a sunset, the trick really is to start photographing. In the case of a sunrise, is to start photographing before the sun comes up over the mountain. That way you'll get a shot without any lens flare in the foreground, and then you can keep photographing as the sun rises, and then you can choose two of those shots to blend. Now, of course, first of all, the scene needs to be static. So in a landscape scene like this, you can see there was no mist or cloud floating through, so in each of my shots the foreground was exactly the same. It didn't change at all. So in this case, for each shot I got an identical foreground. Okay, now if we look here, these are all of the photos I took. So you can see that I started photographing before the sun even came up over the mountains. Yeah. So now what I also did was, even though I had a full stop ND grad on, I still bracketed my exposures. So I took one nominal exposure here, one underexposed by one stop, and one overexposed by one stop. So I got the best of all worlds here, really. I got some brighter foregrounds to possibly work with, and a well exposed sky. So here we can see, as we scroll through, as the sun started to come up, there we go. So this is the moment where the sun started to peak over the mountain tops. There we go. So you can see now it's no problem. I got some nice shots, no lens flare across the scene at all. But as things start to progress, you'll starting to see here now, as the sun's coming up, it's getting very, very bright. You're starting to see some lens flare down here now. And as that sun comes up and gets brighter, the lens flare is more prominent in the scene. Here we go, see? And there you go. Now we're starting to get it down here. So the higher the sun, the brighter everything is, the more lens flare I'm getting. Thankfully I'm getting it all down here, not in the sky. See? There we go. See here? Horrible lens flare. Now you can clone this out in Photoshop. I wouldn't want to try all of this, it would take ages. Maybe some of these smaller ones down here you could, but even then I really can't be bothered. If that foreground scene is not changing, it's much easier to use one of the shots from before, which was this one. Here we go. So I chose these two shots. This one taken just as the sun was peeking over, but there was no lens flare anywhere in my foreground, and it's a nice bright foreground, but of course, you know, in this shot I really liked the sun was up nicely. There's a really nice sunburst, lots of drama across those mountain peaks, and it's perfect. I want to use this guy, but I want to use this foreground. Yeah, I can't be bothered to go around cloning out all of that. You know, these two scenes are identical, so why bother? Let's use the two. Okay, and I can then merge the two into one shot like I've done here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so here are my two shots. Okay, so I'm going to take the brighter shot. I am going to select all, edit, copy, then I'm going to open this shot, edit and paste. There we go. If I go to my layers palette here are my two layers. Okay, now I'm going to go to layer, create layer mask, reveal all, and then I'm going to select my gradient tool down here. There we go. This is the tool I want. Okay, and quite simply, now there's two things you can do. I can come down here and I can blend through the layer from the top like this. Let's undo that. Let's try it again down here. I could do that, but then I'm bringing some of my lens flare through too. But actually, really, if we look at the two, really I just want to come down here and blend through this part. Let's undo that. Let's try it again. Let's come down here. Do that. Try and it's a bit of trial and error basically to try to blend it through so it looks natural. There we go. That's the best one. Okay, and now I've got my sun with the nice starburst effect of the sun coming over the mountains. I've got none of my lens flare down here, and there we go. It's very simple. Now once you've got your blending process right, just go to layer, flatten the image. Now I can add some finishing touches if I want to tweak the highlights a touch. There we go. I can go to my curves. I want to tweak the contrast a touch. There we go. And there we have it. If we zoom in close, just to have a close inspection, make sure everything looks good. Now I've done it, I've blended the two. I didn't have to bother going through cloning out all of that lens flare. There we go. Now, one finishing final touch I would do to this is to brighten the church just a touch. And one way you can do that is to go into the camera raw filter. Now I also think this is a bit too light. Everyone, each to their own. I like to keep these things as natural looking as possible, so when you have this kind of sunrise or sunset shot, I think it looks a bit unnatural if the foreground is too bright. So I can use the graduated filter tool here, set my exposure to maybe -1. Hold that. There we go. And I can just darken that down to make it look a bit more natural. But also what I will do is come up to my church, and here I can selectively brighten areas. So if you go to this adjustment brush tool, and in this case I want to brighten, so let's try +1, see how it looks. I think that's a bit too bright, so I'll undo that. Maybe take it down to half a stop, plus half a stop. There you go. Just subtle. Subtlety is the key. Otherwise things start to look unnatural. Trim that back. There you go. Now that's much better. Okay, that. And that's it. Job done. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this and I hope you found it useful. Check out my other tutorials and please like if you enjoyed this video and please subscribe if you haven't already, and catch you later.